So this is something that I've been a bit obsessed with over the last few weeks. So I'm in lockdown right now. The whole city is because of COVID. The number of cases here just keep going up. It's not looking good. But in this lockdown, I've had a lot of time to really reflect on productivity. I've been working from home the last couple of weeks, but I've been really working on kind of maximizing my productivity by not necessarily working more hours, but rather working fewer hours, but getting more done in those hours. So basically working smarter rather than harder, right? And speaking of working smarter rather than harder, I've just launched my first Skillshare course. It's called Study Smarter Not Harder, Decrease Your Study Time by 50%. And it basically goes through step by step how you can simultaneously decrease the number of hours that you study while achieving higher grades. You don't need to be studying 10, 11, 12 hours a day. There are far easier and more effective strategies than that. The course explains it all. And best of all, for the next couple of weeks, it's absolutely free. I'm gonna give you it away for free. So there's a link in the description, so check it out. I think it's going to provide massive value. But enough of that, I'm going to go through 7 of maybe the most effective things that I do to really maximize my productivity throughout the day. Parkinson's law. So Parkinson's law states that work expands so as to fill the available time for its completion. So let's say you give yourself an entire week to write a 5,000 word assignment. It would probably take you that full week to write it, right? But if you gave yourself just one day, you'd probably be ultra productive and efficient with your studying, and you'd get it done within that day. So it's often why I know a lot of students leave their exam revision until the night before the exam, or they'll leave their assignment until the day before the deadline, because then they have the pressure of a deadline keeping them motivated. And that's Parkinson's law in action. So if you give yourself an artificial deadline to finish your work by, you'll be more productive and get your work done faster. And you can even sweeten the deal by giving yourself some kind of reward if you reach the deadline. And one mistake that I made at university is that I would study 8 hours a day, which is great, but I wouldn't necessarily be studying as efficiently as I could. But I knew I had 8 hours to study, so I wouldn't necessarily have deadlines for each task, so I would kind of like take my time with my work. So right now when I'm working, I've learned from that, and now I make sure that I have deadlines throughout the day. So I have like 3 or 4 main tasks that I need to complete before the end of the day, so not just working X number of hours. And that way it kind of puts more pressure on me to keep working with a sense of urgency. Take a nap. Taking a nap is often something that is a bit stigmatized, I think. Many of us think of taking a nap as something, I don't know, lazy people do, but I don't think that's necessarily true. So we all know the feeling that we have when our energy drops, right? And we're feeling tired. And for me, it's usually in the early afternoon, usually just after lunch. So instead of having to fight it, because that really can be quite difficult, just fighting through that feeling of being extremely lethargic, instead of just fighting it, I take a nap for 20 or 30 minutes, or for a maximum of an hour. Then after I wake up, I'm feeling so much more energized and I'm feeling so much more productive. And I really like this idea of swimming with the tide rather than against it. So instead of having to kind of push yourself and force yourself to be productive, instead, if you're feeling tired, just kind of go with the flow, take a break, take a nap, wake up, you'll feel a lot better. And that way you're kind of swimming with the tide rather than against it. And I like that. Minimum viable action. If you're really struggling with procrastination and your productivity is taking a massive hit, then that's when the concept of minimal viable action can help you out. So if we know that we need to study, but just the kind of idea of it is intimidating, that obviously can lead to procrastination. So the idea here is that you just do the absolute minimum. So you tell yourself, okay, I'm just going to study for 5 minutes. And then you go and study for 5 minutes. And it's very likely that after that 5 minutes, you'll be in the mood and you'll be able to continue studying. And often just the idea of studying, we can kind of blow it up in our mind and convince ourselves that it's going to be like this horrible experience and it's going to sap all our energy and it's just going to be awful. But that's almost always not the case. Often the idea of studying can be far worse than actually studying, right? Anyway, I won't talk too much about the minimum viable action because I made a video just last week, I think, on it, and I talk about it quite a lot there. The video is called How I Beat Procrastination the Easy Way. You can click on the pop-up banner right here to watch it. Imagine you're in a movie. So this is a bit of an unconventional method to help maximize productivity, and I'll be honest with you, I personally haven't tried it before, but I've not mentioned it before on this channel and it's quite interesting, so I'm going to talk about it anyway. So everyone loves movies, right? And a lot of people wish their lives was just like one. But really, you are the main character in your own movie. You're filming your story right now, and with the right mindset, you can use that philosophy to tackle whatever scene comes your way. The main characters in movies usually have extraordinarily interesting lives. They encounter odds that are completely stacked against them, yet they always somehow manage to emerge victorious. But you'll have your own struggles. Maybe it's with procrastination, or maybe it's with money, or maybe it's with relationships or something else. And you've probably encountered your fair share of plot twists too. A good movie is unpredictable, just like your life. So tell yourself that your story is important and that no matter how bad things get, your life will at least be interesting. And just like the hero in a movie, you fight against the odds and you overcome the obstacles and you emerge victorious. You'd be surprised just how much productive you can be when you simply just believe that you have a story to tell. Dynamic studying. So dynamic studying is, instead of deep diving into one subject and focusing all your attention in that one subject for the entire day, you instead study multiple subjects that day. So at university, in an 8-hour study session, I could even study 8 different subjects in that 8 hours, so 1 hour per subject. And it can significantly improve your productivity because your brain is not going to burn out as fast because you're constantly switching things up by changing the subject that you study. There's also this concept of cognitive load, and cognitive load is when it becomes difficult to manage and learn new material due to the amount of mental effort that is being used. It's the workload that your brain is taking on, and you need to be mindful of this. So just learning small bits of subject per day and later integrating that information into your mind slowly, bit by bit each day, can be far less mentally taxing. So I use dynamic studying a lot at university, and I think for me, it was mainly to take advantage of the spacing effect. It's a really time-effective way of studying because by spreading out my learning, my brain had more time to process the information. So there was no overloading of information going on, but instead I kind of had time to soak it in. So if you're having problems with focusing on your studying after an hour or so, or you're having problems forgetting the information that you're learning, then give dynamic studying a go. You might be surprised just how effective it can be. One clear goal. This is really important. As the saying goes, if you chase 2 rabbits, you'll end up catching none, right? So throughout your education, you're going to be pulled in many different directions. You have your studying, then maybe you have a part-time job, you have your friends to go out with, maybe you have, I don't know, extracurricular activities to spend time on. But you need to have just one clear goal to really prioritize that above everything else. So let me give you an example. My goal at university was to achieve a 4.0 GPA. I prioritized it above everything. Almost everything. My health always came first, and it always should. But just after that was to achieve a 4.0 GPA. And I mean, I was absolutely laser focused on achieving it. I would study however long it needed to. If I needed to study 12 hours a day, then so be it. If I needed to start revising for an exam 2 months ahead of time, then so be it. You see, when I was at university, it was relatively easy to see the students that prioritized their studying and were getting decent grades, and those that didn't prioritize their studying and weren't getting good grades. So for example, I had classmates that would go to a party the night before an exam, even though they hadn't prepared for their exam. And of course, as a result, they didn't do very well in their exam. Now, that's fine if that's what they want to do. I'm not judging them, but I'm assuming if you're watching this video, then you are striving to achieve relatively good grades. So I guess it really boils down to, how much do you really want it? How much do you really want to achieve incredible grades? And are you willing to pay the price? Because honestly, a lot of people just aren't. The white flag. Sometimes if my day just doesn't go as planned for whatever reason, I might have been feeling tired, there might have been a lot of things come up that distracted me. So if I have a really unproductive day, by the time it comes to late afternoon or early evening and I still haven't got anything done, then sometimes I'll just write the whole day off. I surrender to the procrastination and essentially fly my white flag, which is kind of a strange concept that I'm talking about in a video on productivity, to just kind of give up if you're having an unproductive day. But let me explain. So these, we'll call them white flag days, are actually factored into my monthly schedule. So at university, I studied 7 days a week. That was 8 hours every day from Monday to Saturday, and on Sunday, I would study 4 hours a day. But at the same time, I told you that I treated university like a 9-to-5 job, but even a 9-to-5 job, you don't have to work 7 days a week, right? Usually you'd work Monday to Friday and then have the weekend off. And that's the way society has kind of trained us into living. It's how school is structured. We go to class from Monday to Friday, then we don't have to attend classes on the weekend, right? But I do things a bit differently, and this works for me. In fact, it really, really works for me. So it's because I don't have a set day off from work, so I don't plan to have a day off every Saturday and Sunday like a lot of people do, but instead I just kind of go with the flow. And if I feel like having a day off during the week because I'm being particularly unproductive that day, then I will do. At the same time though, it's important that if you live your life this way, that you don't take advantage of the fact that you are able to just write the whole day off when you're feeling tired. I mean, I write the entire day off maybe once or twice a month, if that, maybe even just once a month. It's not often at all, and I only do it when I'm having a seriously unproductive day, and it's one of those days where you just can't drag yourself to the desk, but you're literally too tired, or there are just so many distractions being thrown at you and it's 3 p.m. in the afternoon and you still haven't got anything done. So don't be scared to write the day off every now and then, but do make sure, number one, that you don't do it too often, and number two, you learn what it is that's making you unproductive and you don't allow it to happen the next day. And if you're still struggling with being productive, then I have a video called Stop Wasting Time on YouTube. I know it's ironic, right? I'm telling you to stop watching YouTube while simultaneously recommending you to watch another YouTube video. But trust me, it's a really good video. It's one of my fastest growing videos, and I have another video on how I stay productive when I'm feeling unmotivated. Both really good videos that will help you massively with your productivity. And whichever one you choose, I'll see you over there.